Hello, fellow Movie Crusaders, and welcome to our latest episode. Today is a very special episode. It's something that's very important to me, and that is we're doing our franchise flashback. For any of you guys checked out our first episode of that, we did the Batman franchise before the Batman came back out in March, and today we're doing the Jurassic World franchise. My name is Sean Waskrug. With me, as always, is my co-host Brian Michaels. Jurassic World Dominion is, at this point when this video airs, it'll already be out. It's this series is very, very important to me personally. Like a lot of people have importance with Star Wars, the MCU, the Harry Potters. I mean, like I love all those franchises. I do. But Jurassic Park to me is one of my most important franchises ever. Love and hate of it all. And so I am incredibly nervous and anxious going into this. I don't want to say it's the final film because let's face it, they're gonna keep making these movies. But the final one of this trilogy. Brian, what are your thoughts on going into Jurassic World Dominion?
Yeah, I mean, like you, the Jurassic Park franchise is probably one of my my Mount Rushmore of movie franchises, like Star Wars and Indiana Jones, Jurassic Park, for me, Pirates of the Caribbean, maybe one or two others. But it's one of those franchises that is what going to the movies is all about for me. I've actually enjoyed all of them to different extents. Some of them aren't as good as others, but I still, even the worst one in the series, I still enjoyed very much so. It's one of those that it's coming to this last film. It's like, it's supposedly going to tie it up in a nice little bow. We all know they'll make more at some point because it's money. Maybe they won't include the same cast, things like that, but they're going to make more. Let's be honest. But I'm curious to see how they are going to kind of wrap it all up, especially since they're going to be incorporating both of the casts in the different trilogies.
Yeah, it's one of those things where had they not brought back the original three, meaning Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum, and let's not even talk about Jeff Goldblum in the last film, I don't think it would feel as big as it does right now. But because they're bringing back the OG3 to mix with the current group, that's why it feels.
You're right. If it had just had the new cast, it would have been like, okay, they're wrapping up this trilogy, but now it feels like, okay, we're wrapping up the whole saga kind of thing.
Exactly, which makes me wonder, because I think they pretty much already stated that this is the end of the trilogy, but we will probably be continuing because it's dinosaurs. You're never going to stop doing dinosaur movies, just like we're never going to stop doing alien invasion movies, and now we'll never stop with comic book movies because it's just never going to stop with that. But in terms of maybe going down a different path with brand new characters and all that kind of stuff, yeah, I can see that totally happening, or maybe even starting over with a different take on it, which they should never ever try to remake the first film. But still, I can see them try to go a different route with it. But yeah, going into this, and then for anyone who ever saw our video from the beginning of the year of why we love movies, you guys can see the whole story of how important Jurassic Park is to me. It is the movie that made me fall in love with movies. It's the movie that I've seen the most in theaters. Every time they release a new version or a new edition or new whatever with Jurassic Park, I have to go see it. I've got every version of every copy of disc that's ever came out. I had the toys. I even had that badass T-Rex one where you could actually feed like the figures into it and then rip, pull them through the stomach like they're having a baby.
All those action figures that look nothing like the actual characters in the movies.
That's very, very true. But the dinosaurs look like dinosaurs. That's what was.
That's all that matters.
None of us cared about the generic. Like
I got the Lego ones back here.
Yeah, it's like no one cared about Alan Grant or Ian Malcolm and how they looked. We just want to make sure the T-Rex and everyone looked great. But yeah, Jurassic Park for me, I would say there are probably two movies, and like I said, how cliche that these two movies, but there are two movies that are incredibly very important to me, and that's Jurassic Park and Jaws, obviously both by Steven Spielberg. Jurassic Park, though, and like I said in the other video, dinosaurs have always been a huge part of my life since I was a kid. I mean, like a baby. My earliest memory, actually, it's my second earliest memory. My earliest memory is me sitting on the couch at like 1 year old and watching WrestleMania 2 with my brother and my dad. I don't know how I remember that, but I do. But my earliest memory outside of that is I think I was like 3, maybe 4 years old, and I was taken to like a dinosaur museum exhibit or whatever. And I remember, now granted, bear with me, I'm a fucking kid. You know how kids are brats. I remember crying and throwing a fit because my parents were making me leave and I wanted to just live with the dinosaurs. I remember pulling out of the parking lot and just looking out the back window like, I want to go back. Kind of like Matthew Fox in Lost, like, we gotta go back kind of thing. Dinosaurs have always been incredibly important to me. And outside of like Land Before Time, they were never depicted very, very well in movie form. I mean, to me, like before Jurassic Park came out, I think, like I said, the best depiction of dinosaurs on film was, like I said, Land Before Time, and probably Dinosaurs on TV. But even then, that wasn't really good. It was just entertaining. So when Jurassic Park came out, like I said in my story, my brother worked at the theater at the time, and he basically, he had to. I mean, he worked, but he kind of had to watch me after school. So during at least that 1 week, I got to go hang out with him at the theater, and he basically just parked me in Jurassic Park, and I watched like Jurassic Park, I think like 9 times in the first week, and I fell in love from there. I mean, my parents, they always got during parent-teacher conferences and stuff like that, they said Sean's a great kid, but he needs to stop talking back to the teachers when they say dinosaur names wrong, because I would correct them. Could I say those names? Maybe it's an adulthood thing.
So you were Timmy, basically.
I was what?
Tim from the first movie?
Oh, totally. I was totally Tim. Except for being a little bitch. I was totally Tim. And maybe that's an adult thing, because like back when I was a kid, I could say them and pronounce them to perfection. Today, good luck.
Well, then when they started changing names and stuff, like, you
can't now there's like 1,000 different versions of T-Rex. There's all this, like Apple TV. They just came out with like Planet Earth's version of dinosaurs called Prehistoric Planet, and it's like a 5-part miniseries. It's actually really, really good. But yeah, 90% of the dinosaurs they talk about on the thing, I'm like, dude, I would never be able to pronounce that, nor would I ever remember those particular dinosaurs 3 days after this episode.
Yeah, when I was a kid, there was like 10 dinosaurs.
Yeah, you had T-Rex, Stegosaurus, Triceratops, Brontosaurus, because Brachiosaurus was not a thing till Jurassic Park came out.
Yeah.
No one knew what a fucking Velociraptor was till Jurassic Park, or Dilophosaurus. But you basically you had like Pterodactyl, which is now Pterodon. It's like you had like 5 to 6 actual dinosaurs, and that was it. And you were good to go. But Jurassic Park opened a new world, at least at that point. I mean, you had you had the main group of dinosaurs. And I'll say this: that is one dinosaur. I mean, we'll get into it. If there was one dinosaur, or maybe even 2 dinosaurs that have been greatly underutilized and kind of disrespected through the entire franchise, it's the Stegosaurus and the Triceratops.
Well, because herbivores aren't fun to watch. They just wander around.
But they can fight, though. If there's 2 herbivore dinosaurs that could fight back, it's those 2, and they never really got used. Like the Stegosaurus, you had the one scene in Lost World where it protects its baby from Julianne Moore, and the Triceratops, it gets sick and eats a fucking plant. It's like these ones can actually.
The Triceratops been seen in a couple fights, though,
but not well enough to the point of an establishment shot like the Brachiosauruses have, or the T-Rexes, Raptors, and all that kind of stuff. It's like, I get more teeth cells, which I agree. T-Rex is my favorite dinosaur, but God, they really kind of fucked over.
I will say, because I was rewatching everything in preparation for this new movie, and that short film that came out with the Battle of Big Rock, I think it's called.
The trailer park.
Yeah, the Triceratops got their due there. You had the family of them.
They did, but not. I would say the average, if we're going by a percentage of how many people actually watched that, you're maybe looking at 10% of the actual people that will see Jurassic World Dominion. But yeah, like I said, everyone knows my love for Jurassic Park. Like I said, it's on this one video that we shot earlier this year, Why We Love Movies. But to Brian, Jurassic Park, without going into the actual film itself yet, what did Jurassic Park mean to you? Like, I know you said a little bit ago it's on your Mount Rushmore, but I mean, prior up to it.
So I mean, I was well into my movie going, career by then, because I'm obviously a little older than you. So when that actually came out the summer, it was the first year I had moved away from my family. Like I moved out of town. I didn't live in a whole different city from my family for the first time ever. And I was like 18 years old. And this was, or maybe it was 19, but I don't know. But it was it came
Oh,
out
it's
that
1993,
summer.
Brian. So it's however old you were in 1993.
Yeah. So, but it was that summer it came out, and I basically lived at the movie theater, of course, because I was in a new place, didn't know a whole lot of people and stuff. So even more than I do now, I was just going to the movie theater all the time, and so yeah, I saw the movie so many times that summer. And the thing is, it could have been really. I think the reason you didn't see dinosaur movies is because it couldn't be done well before then. The problem is when they'd done it in like older movies, it was like stop motion animation, things like that, which this movie almost was at one point. Um, or you have to do like an animated one, like Land Before Time, things like that. Or else you have like these weird, people in suits, like the Dinosaurs TV show. But you can't have convincing dinosaurs until the technology got to this point where, like, okay, we can make this convincing. It can look real. It can look. People will be able to watch it and be scared or thrilled or whatever without rolling their eyes or laughing at bad special effects.
Oh yeah.
And so when it came out, people were just kind of blown away by it. Not just the CGI either, but by the animatronic stuff, which is more than half of the appearances of the animals. Anytime you're not seeing like the entire animal run, it's probably physical animatronic practical effects. So I mean, it was a big breakthrough in that way. But for me also, as far as a movie, because like you said, it got compared to Jaws a lot at the beginning, which makes sense. I mean, Steven Spielberg. It's a kind of a horror thriller. They basically tease it the same way. You don't like you don't see like the dinosaurs until a good clean shot of the dinosaur so well into like the movie.
Oh, you're like
Especially
40. You're like almost 40 minutes into the
yeah,
film.
especially the T-Rex in that. And so it's kind of set up with the same pacing and everything as Jaws. That what happened though with this, well, and then it goes into the franchise, which we'll get into later. But as far as the first film, yeah, it was kind of a big moment for me because Indiana Jones was essentially done, I thought. So Steven Spielberg is kind of like, oh, he's going off and doing his other stuff now. So when he came up with this, I'm like, wow, he can still make blockbuster films, and it became instantly one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's and like a lot like Jaws, like you said, it's because you get the quick little glimpse of the raptor in the beginning, but even then, it's the eyes and
Yeah, it's like the eye and
some of his back and stuff, like not a cool focal point. But yeah, even with this, I do love that he did take kind of the Jaws approach with it, where yes, you do get to see the Brachiosaurus and kind of the I'm blanking off the name. They start with a P, but the one with the fin. The Pompadour is the way Pete Postlethwaite says it in the Lost World. But yeah, they once they go on the tour, like none of the dinosaurs show up like Jaws. It's like you're never gonna see the dinosaurs, which prompts probably one of my favorite lines of the franchise with Malcolm going. He's like, we are gonna have dinosaurs on this tour. I really hate that man. but yeah, so like when we do finally get the T-Rex reveal, which even then the T-Rex, it's like well over an hour into the film, you're on bated breath for that moment. And like I said, even then they tease it. You get the finger going off the thing, then you get the head shot, and it's like, okay, well, you can make a dinosaur head look good. But when it steps out there on the main track, and you can see it in all of its glory. I mean, at that time, even by today, like we've been saying this many times before, is that Jurassic Park's effects today are still, if not better, than the CGI stuff that we get today.
They absolutely hold up.
Practical effects. I will put Jurassic Park's dinosaurs up against Jurassic World Dominion's dinosaurs, hands down. Yes, I'm not bashing Jurassic World or Fallen Kingdom CGI. I'm sure the dinosaurs look great, but will they look as real as the practical effects of the dinosaurs in the first film? The answer is no. They probably move better because it's CG, but visually,
this is almost 30 years on now, too.
Yeah.
And these effects still hold up. That's like comparing a film in 1993 to one that was made in 1964. Those effects do not match. So for that to hold up 30 years later is huge.
It's amazing, and the group behind putting them together and shooting. That's why I love. We were talking about this the other time on the other show. Is Netflix has a series called
The Movies That Made Us.
The Movies That Made Us. And I think the very, very first episode, I think, was Jurassic Park. If you're a Jurassic Park fan, you are owed to go to Netflix, find Movies That Made Us, and watch the Jurassic Park episode, and watch kind of how hard it was to do this. Like, I think they said, what was it? Like the T-Rex's skin was spongy, and they kept having to obviously do the rain because it was raining in the scene, and they kept having to like dry off the T-Rex because it wasn't moving properly because of the rain. It's like an hour-long episode. It's beautifully done, and it really kind of gives you that behind the scenes of this amazing film and just how much work went into it with the cast. And that brings us to our next point with the cast. Obviously, you got the OG3. You got Sam Neill as Alan Grant. You got Laura Dern as Ellie Sandler, and then you got Goldblum as Ian Malcolm. And like those three are great. But I want to give a little personal shout out. I really wish this character, and spoilers obviously for all 5 of these movies, I really wish this one particular character had survived, and that was oh god, I'm blanking on his name off the top of the head. It's Muldoon, Robert Muldoon, played by Bob Peck. Because he's the first character you see in the movie, and he's just a badass kind of character that I kind of really wish he would have survived. Granted, he goes out the bomb ass way with a clever girl, and gets attacked. But I remember as a kid, I thought this guy was like the most badass dude. I did impersonations of him. My mom loved it. She's like, do the Australian guys thing. And I'd be like, loading team, step away. And I was like, she fucking got a kick out of it. But this character is such a great character. And they use him sparsely throughout the film. Like, he could have been the focal point, the main front thing. Like, oh, he's the badass.
I feel like Owen Grady was kind of like making that character the lead character in the other trilogy. It's the same kind of thing where he was more of like, a military guy. He was like knew how scary they were, and he could take.
I think that's what they kind of figured out. Is like after the third Jurassic Park, like we really need to focus on a character like Muldoon, and then boom, we got Pratt's Owen. Yeah. But yeah, everything, like I said, everything about Jurassic Park, like I said, with the characters, like I said, you got the OG3, you got Muldoon, of course, you've got the. You got Nedry, played by Wayne Knight, which I'm not a huge Wayne Knight fan, but Dennis Nedry is the ultimate, like, comeuppance bad guy. It's like, you're going to get it. And when the way he gets it with the Dilophosaurus, where he treats it like a dog and then just gets fucking destroyed. Perfect. You also got, BD Wong. I really wish, I hope BD Wong gets a way bigger role in this last movie. Because he's just kind of like pops in, pops out, pops in, pops out. I think dude's been out there from the start. Like, give this man some actual time. He's like, I think he's got the most screen time in Fallen Kingdom that he has, but we know he's in Dominion. I hope he actually gets like a actual screen time with the group and not just, generically off in the corner somewhere else on the island kind of thing. Mm-hmm. But then of course, you got Richard Attenborough, Sir, right? Yes. Yeah, Sir Richard Attenborough, Dr. John Hammond. The movie itself, he's the soul of the film. Without Hammond, Jurassic Park doesn't work, the franchise, because it's his vision, it's his doing of all this, and then that's greatly by design of the books and of the story. But his performance is, to me, it was Oscar worthy at the time. Now, granted, I was fucking 9 when this movie came out, but even today, rewatching the movies, I'm like, how did he not get nominated for a supporting role in this? From his small moments in the beginning where he basically he looks like kind of like this carny guy who figured out this trick and he's trying to do all this, to that one moment in where he's having ice cream with Sadler and he's talking about the flea circus. He's talking about all this, like, it's such a beautifully well shot scene, well acted.
He's kind of the character. I mean, Jurassic Park is basically all about that. It's about this guy who basically he wanted to see the wonder of dinosaurs, and he wanted to do this. He wanted to create this world. People come see this thing, but he is exactly what Ian Malcolm warns about, which is just because you could, you just have to think if you should. And so, I mean, that's what the whole kind of franchise has been about. Is like, yes, we can go and people can create dinosaurs. You can go see them. We can de-extinct them, whatever. But is it a good idea? And look what happens when you try to mess with science. And that's kind of, it all comes from his character.
And that's also the brilliant writing. And now, granted, like I said, this is a book by Michael, is it Crichton? Crichton. I mean, the writing of this film is brilliant. Like, every line of dialogue has a purpose towards the story or towards something later in the film. Like you said with Malcolm, or there's so many little just gems. this is like going after rewatching this movie like 20 plus times, and you're just like sometimes like every time I watch it, there's another line that pops up going, why have I never picked that up before? Like that was actually a great line that forebodes something, later down the road, and every character serves its own purpose. If there was a character who technically didn't serve a purpose in the movie, but I love him too much, is Samuel L. Jackson's character.
Oh, Mr. Arnold, yeah.
Mr. Arnold. He's just there to be Samuel L. Jackson. And at that point, Samuel L. Jackson is not Samuel L. Jackson at that point. He's just like, hold on to your butts guy. And that's how I knew Samuel L. Jackson when I first met him. Like eventually, he did A Time to Kill and everything. And then you're like, oh, that's Samuel L. Jackson with Pulp Fiction. But to me, when I first met him, I was like, that's the hold on to your butts guy. Like that's how I know the guy. But even Gennaro, played by Martin Ferrero, the lawyer, like his character is such a lawyer character, but he goes out in such a sad way. It's a monumental, like epic moment. But had he not left the kids, I'd be like, yeah, did he deserve that kind of death? No. But then when he left the kids, it's like, all right, dude, you kind of deserve that kind of death. And like even the dinosaur looked like, dude, I don't want to eat you. You're taking a shit.
But he's a blood-sucking lawyer, so.
Well, yeah, he's a blood-sucking lawyer. And then of course, like I said, I love that one moment where they're after they've seen everything, and Gennaro's like, oh my god, we're gonna make a fortune here. He's like, yeah, he goes, we could do this, and this, and him's like, I want this to be affordable for everybody. And he's like, oh yeah, we'll have a coupon day. It's just the lines in this movie are great, and like that's the great thing about this movie is that you and we can talk about everything and not still even mention the dinosaurs. That's how fantastic this film is. The cast is incredible. The way it's shot's incredible. The dialogue is incredible. And then, fucking dinosaurs.
I also want to say one thing they did brilliantly is in a movie like this, where you're talking about you have so much information to convey, and you have to do these information dumps. You have to do this exposition.
Oh, totally.
To have them go through that and do the Mr. DNA presentation was perfect.
Ooh, Mr.
Because
DNA.
It's part of the movie. So it's not just, it doesn't feel like an exposition dump, but at the same time, but they're going to attend this presentation because the characters need to learn what's going on, but it's also entertaining, and it works perfectly. It's I don't know whose idea it was, but it's perfect.
Well, yeah, because they made it part of the ride kind of thing.
Yep.
And still, once again, another great line in the movie is when Gennaro's like, are these, like he's putting it, are these autoerotica? Which, at my age, when I first saw it, I didn't get that joke. That was a joke that I didn't get for years. I was like, oh, that shit's funny, and I never noticed that. Yeah, Jurassic Park. It's like I said, we didn't even talk about the Velociraptors, which I think that's probably the one thing that I think true dinosaur fans either just had to kind of just get like accept, because Velociraptors aren't that big. First off. Velociraptors are much smaller than the raptors in the franchise, and they look more like birds and stuff like that. But they made the raptors the ultimate bad guys. Now, granted, the new trilogies kind of with Blue try to make them more of a good guy kind of thing, but they're still ultimately bad. But yeah, it's one of those things where they needed someone besides a T-Rex, someone that was smaller, that could be more like kind of almost like an alien, like a xenomorph. Kind of dinosaur, and the raptors were perfect. That initial introduction, where yes, you had the beginning of the film, you didn't really know that was a raptor at the time. You're like, oh shit! Like I think a lot of people didn't know what kind of dinosaur they're talking about, and then you see Gennaro later. You see them just demolish this. It was a cow or a bull. They say cow, but it's totally a bull. But when we initially get to they're hunting us. And you get, them killing Mr. Arnold and then killing Muldoon, and then you get them hunting the kids, and you get that whole kitchen scene. That's when the horror really starts to kick it up a notch, because you have these dinosaurs that can talk to one another, communicate with one another. They can open doors. They're very mobile, and because of how mobile they are, it added a whole new facet of horror. And not even that, like you're taking away the element of like, oh, it's a big dinosaur, it can just chomp down on you and boom, you're done. No, these ones are basically, human size. Like they're gonna claw at you and try to eat you and stuff like that, and they attack you. from different angles and all that stuff. And so, I mean, granted, even though they're not anything like the real velociraptors out there, Spielberg did a great job of building this terrifying creature to basically become the ex facto villain of the franchise. I mean, granted, Dilophosaurus, I think, is a beautiful creature that they never really used. Now, I know because he's in the trailer, Dilophosaurus is in the next film, but that was another dinosaur. It's like, you have this beautiful, colorful creature that spits venom, and you never really used it outside of killing Nedry. Now, granted, it's iconic because it kills Nedry, but that's another incredible dinosaur that you never ever got to utilize. But what are your thoughts on the raptor and Dilophosaurus?
I mean, like you said, I mean, a lot of the stuff, people will nitpick and say things aren't, necessarily like the real ones. But I mean, like you said, at the time, nobody even heard of it. I mean, outside hardcore
outside of
science theory,
hardcore ones, yeah.
nobody knew what they were. They wanted to create these villains, so they took what information they had, and even in the time since Jurassic Park, there have been more discoveries and advances and a lot of theories of what they did look like. They had more feathers and things like that, and so people still don't know exactly what these things are. We're never going to know exactly what they look like. We don't know what they sound like. We don't know all their habits. But so they had to create, like you said, they were creating a character, and I think that you had a perfect analogy when you compared them to the xenomorphs from Aliens, because I think that's exactly what they were. As far as the Dilophosaurus, I think he's one that it was unique. It was good to throw him in a featured scene, and yes, we'll see him again apparently in this movie. But I don't think he was anything that's going to be a lasting impact as far as an ongoing villain, because as far as we know, he wasn't like a predator. He wasn't fast, things like that. He was more like.
Well, I don't want him to be like how they were with the Raptors, but he's definitely one of those. Keep saying he, like it's a fuck, like we know the gender. They're all female, but I wanted the Dilophosaurus to kind of be one of those that pop up and oh shit, Dilophosaurus. I wanted Dilophosaurus in like that scene with Nedry. One scene. Every movie needs to have one Dilophosaurus.
We did get a hologram in Jurassic World.
We did, yes, but the Lost World, which I mean, it's Site B. Why wouldn't there have been a Dilophosaurus on Site B? But yeah, it's that was definitely just one of those character or dinosaurs. It's such a beautiful visual. To not utilize it just felt weird to me. Now we talked about almost all the characters from Jurassic Park. The main thing, and love it or hate it for me, I'm kind of more towards the disliking of it, but it's a dinosaur film. It's got horror elements, action, thriller elements, but the real question is getting kids to watch this movie and not be terrified the entire time. So they bring in children characters. I think in the first film with Lex and wow, what?
Tim.
I almost said Joseph. I was like, nope, that's the actor's name. With Lex and Tim, for the most part, that works because they built, once again, just like with Jurassic Park, they built the characters up with proper dialogue, proper scenes, and they did the list. To me, I feel like every other film in the franchise has kind of just force-fed us kids and have never utilized them or done anything with them to really make them matter like Lex and Tim did. Would you agree?
I really agree with that. I mean, in the later films or the rest of the films, it does feel like there's here's the kid character. And sometimes, yes, the kid is brave, and sometimes kids save them in a certain scene, or sometimes they have a certain ability that helps them. But it like you said, it doesn't feel like as well of a fleshed out character as his first one, where they had to introduce two kids to kind of help, like you said, the kids kind of identify with the movie, and they made one like this dinosaur expert, the other one the computer hacker, which it's a little eye rolling. I will admit, but it worked.
It's a Unis system. I know this. It's
I'm a hacker. No, you're not. You're somebody who likes computers. Anyway,
I mean, in the sequel, you've got Malcolm's daughter, which I'm not blaming any really of the kid actors in the film. It's more the script not doing a good enough job of establishing the characters as well, or really just kind of doing them a disservice. I mean, you have Kelly in Lost World. She's fine. It's just then they do the
until that uneven bars gymnastics.
Yeah, they do the uneven bar gymnastics scene, which kind of is like, okay, come on. Not even with her good whip would she have enough strength to fucking fling a raptor with her feet. If anything, she would bounce off the damn raptor like she hit an uneven bar. The third film you had oh god, what the hell's the kid's name? Oh, Eric.
Oh yeah, because they were yelling it on the beach for
I
10 minutes.
freaking lost a trivia match not knowing fucking Eric's name. I mean, I don't want to say he's a MacGuffin, but he's what they're all trying to find in the third film, and his character's okay. Once again, not established enough for you to really care. And then of course Jurassic World, you've got Nick Robinson and is it Simpkins?
Ty Simpkins.
Oh, yeah, which once again they're fine, but they're just like too outside of they're related to Claire. They don't really serve a purpose in the film. They're more or less there to show us what the theme park is like for the characters that aren't actually, in the theme park. And then once it starts to get real, they're inconsequential to the rest of the film. And then of course, we're not even getting me started on fucking Fallen Kingdom and the fucking clone who's in the new movie. But in the new movie, she's at least older. So I was like, okay, cool. We're maybe not going to have kids. And I already saw a trailer with 2 kids in it. And I'm like, we're never going to get rid of the kids in these movies. But that's, well, of course. But it's just, I wish, honestly, what I would really wish is that somehow Lex and Tim show up in the new movie. But I think if they did, we would have seen them in the trailers already.
Or
but that would have been.
I was going to say maybe it's one of the few surprises they're holding back, but because things have already screened, I think that kind of stuff, whether or not we are trying to avoid it, it's kind of thing I think I would have heard.
I know the actress that plays Lex is not really an actress anymore, but Joseph Manzello, he's still out there. He's still acting. We saw him a couple years back in Bohemian Rhapsody. So I mean, they could easily have brought him back. I would have geeked out at that if they would have. You know what? He could still pull up, and if he does, yeah. But it's one of those things where those 2 characters did such a great job of establishing the kid character roles and it could have been just that they were so good at it that none of the other kid characters could compare. But that's also because you didn't really give them the time to establish those characters. And then of course Jurassic Park has probably still some of the most iconic shots in movie history, like freeze frame iconic shots from the T-Rex attack to the Raptors attack to the inevitable end sequence with the T-Rex roaring with the when dinosaurs ruled the earth banner falling down, which is just one of my favorite shots in movie history. Which thus leads us to Lost World. Now, Lost World really gets a bad rap. And I honestly think Lost World is a great film. I enjoy it immensely. I think, yes, a lot of people bash it because of like the last half hour, the whole San Diego aspect of it, but it wasn't like it was that bad. Yes, there's some corny shit. There's a lot of corny shit in the San Diego part of the film, but I think for where they forced the story to go, I don't think the San Diego aspect is really that bad. But what I loved about Lost World is that they threw the characters into the jungle. No fences, no cages or anything like that, and they let them kind of be in there with the dinosaurs. And to me, it added an awesome element to the story. And I really, like I said, I enjoyed the characters, not nearly as much as Jurassic Park, obviously. But I think Lost World really gets a bad rap, and I think it's one of the better ones of the franchise. What are your thoughts on Lost World?
Yeah, well, after Jurassic Park, it's like you kind of thought, well, there's this great movie that Steven Spielberg made, and that's that. And of course, then they hear they're making a sequel, but you're like, well, yeah, Jaws had a sequel too, but it was a big drop off in quality and only got worse.
Lost World had a book.
It got worse. Well, the movie was being made concurrently with him writing the book, so they have very little in common, honestly, the book and the movie. But so the fact that they were going to make the sequel, you're like, okay, maybe we'll check it out. Okay, I like the first one, but then yet Steven Spielberg's going to direct it again. Okay, maybe it's going to be like a real sequel. It's not just a cash grab kind of, slap the name on it kind of thing.
Oh, we'll get to that.
And it actually, I thought it turned out very well. I enjoy Lost World a lot. Is it as good as Jurassic Park? No, it's not. But I enjoy, like you said, the whole jungle setting of it. I enjoyed the whole new cast they brought into it. Vince Vaughn, who most people hadn't seen at that point.
He was a relative unknown at that point.
Julianne Moore. You got, of course, you're bringing Jeff Goldblum back, who is awesome. The San Diego stuff, I actually thought was great. I had no problem with the San Diego stuff. I mean, I think that's one thing people want to see is like, well, what would happen if the dinosaurs made it to, a city, like especially in the U.S. and what would happen?
Yeah.
And so I thought that was great. I mean, we got to see more of that kind of thing in, in some of the Jurassic World films kind of thing. You saw more interacting, more the public, and that's a lot of fun. And apparently in this new one, you'll see a lot of that too.
Yeah,
But
and I personally, and like I said, another character like Muldoon, another character that I wish they would have brought back because he didn't die, which was Pete Postlewaite's Tembo. That was a great character. Postlewaite does a great job. He's the one who hunts the T-Rex.
he did die, didn't he?
No, he didn't. He
Oh.
caught his partner died, and he captures the T-Rex, the one they take to San Diego. And then, oh god, I'm blanking on his name. Ludlow was like, "Oh, you can get a job. I'll get you a job at San Diego. You can hunt the dinosaurs all day in front of a live crowd." And he's like, "No, I've seen enough killing to survive."
Oh yeah.
And then
okay.
and then he leaves.
That's why he didn't die, because he
He
redeemed himself. I
survived.
didn't know I've seen enough killing.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
he
mean, it's got a lot of great characters with it. Like I said, I like the San Diego stuff. There were moments that I didn't like it, like the whole gymnastics thing where she kicks
Yeah.
it. That was just ridiculously stupid. So there are moments here and there I didn't like, but overall, I really enjoyed this movie.
Yeah, and they brought I think probably why a lot of people dislike certain parts of it is, yes, the gymnastics kid stuff didn't really work. Then they forced a baby T-Rex story into the element, which
I thought that worked fine.
it was fine for what it was, but I think it hindered the movie to a point at certain points of the film. But yeah, I wanted that baby T-Rex. I wanted that baby T-Rex to come home with me because it could be my pet. But it was one of those things where I loved, once again, how they utilized the T-Rexes in this film. The T-Rexes just wanted to be left alone, and you took the baby, and you forced the T-Rexes to interact and kind of become a part of the story. And that was, to me, one of the main horror elements of the film was the T-Rex, because you have the moment where you take the baby and they attack the trailers, which was beautifully shot. Then you have the really horrific death of was it Eddie? Yeah, Eddie Carr, where they ripped him in two. And then you have later the element where it quietly sneaks into the campsite and like sticks its head into Julianne Moore's tent because it smells the blood of the baby. And just watching them all run in terror, which I'm sorry, the long-haired dude deserved to die. That was always. You ever watch a movie where there's this one like character in the crowd that just sticks out to you? Like, God, I hope that character gets it. And it was the long-haired dude like doing this as they run, and then of course he gets like the snake in his, and then he runs out into the waterfall, gets eaten. It's like it's a snake, T-Rex snake. Snake's not biting you. Let that thing slide down because you're dead, and he dies. But that was the doctor guy, not the doctor guy. That was like the actual dinosaur guy for them, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure that was the guy who actually knew the dinosaurs.
Honestly, it's been a while since I watched Last World.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the guy who actually like knew what the dinosaurs were, like each one and all that stuff. Like he was their dino guy. But also, to me, one of the best horror elements in the entire franchise, which was the raptor tall grass scene, where they all start going into the raptor nest unknowingly, and you have I think it's not Dieter, it's Postlewaite's number 2 guy, the one that actually dies.
Peter Stormare?
AJ.
Oh, AJ. Okay.
He's like, "Get out of the long grass! Get out!" And you start seeing all the tails, all just kind of so, and then just such a beautifully shot scene. It's so great. Like I said, the horror elements of, once again, adding the xenomorphs. It's like you got into this tunnel and you have that radar thing. You start seeing all these beep, 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 and just boom, getting the attack. Like I said, Lost World, like I said, there's a lot of great casting in this film. They don't get the kind of story dialogue that Jurassic Park did. Granted, it's a sequel. They're trying to get bigger, badder, all this kind of stuff. But it's got some great moments in the film. And for me, ultimately enjoyable because you have Goldblum leading the way. And, because of that, like it kind of felt like a perfect kind of bookend to the franchise. The way it ended is, you got Hammond effectively on his deathbed, basically saying, leave these dinosaurs alone to prosper and kind of live their own lives on Site B. And you got this great moment. You're watching the T-Rexes kind of reteach the baby T-Rex how to walk because it broke its leg. Which that was always the one part of the movie that bothered me, is they never showed how the T-Rex broke its leg. It's just like I get that effectively, if you read the books, they jumped out of the tree and landed on the baby dino or the baby T-Rex, and that's how he broke his leg, but you never actually saw it. You just all of a sudden, like, they saved it, and it's like, oh, it broke its femur or something like that. That was always a scene that...
I was on the impression that, because didn't they take that from the site of all the captured dinosaurs?
What's that?
Didn't they take it from the site of all the captured dinosaurs?
No, they Tembo took the baby T-Rex, and he had it out in the middle of the woods because he was hunting the adult T-Rex. And so he had it kind of like not stamped down, but he had it chained down to the ground.
Well, that's right. That's right.
Then
No, I always figured either they somehow injured it when they captured it.
No, the way the novelization goes is when Nick Van Owen goes and releases all the dinosaurs in the camp, and you see that one part where AJ and Tembo are in the tree, and that truck comes flying through the air, and they have to jump out of the tree. Mm-hmm. When they jump out of the tree, one of them supposedly rolls or lands on the baby T-Rex, thus breaking its leg. Because the baby T-Rex is trapped, it can't move. That's how it breaks its leg in the book.
Yeah, but you never know if that was the original thing or just something they did for the book.
Yeah, you see them jump out of the tree, but you never see them land. And then the next scene, you see them and it's broke. Yeah. Which is just like, why? You gotta show it. Because you don't even explain how it happens. It just is what it is. But yeah, Lost World, like I said, I think it was a solid sequel to Jurassic Park. It was never gonna reach Jurassic Park standards. It was one of those things, kind of like, T2. T2 was a beautiful sequel to Terminator, but when Rise of the Machines came out, which granted that's not a good movie, but it's like you're not gonna beat Judgment Day. It's like Lost World, great. We're glad to see.
I've been trying for the last 30 years, but
yeah, it's like you were great, but you're not gonna beat Jurassic Park. And like you said, it established itself as more than nothing, that it wasn't just a cash grab. Leading into a cash grab, Jurassic Park 3. Here's the thing with Jurassic Park 3. And granted, the two movies that I dislike about this franchise, I will go a little ranty, and Brian's just gonna sit there and let me do it because this is my franchise. Jurassic Park.
The thoughts of Sean Watts Creek do not necessarily represent those of the entire Movie Crusaders.
Jurassic Park 3, before I saw even one screenshot of this movie, I knew this movie was going to be in trouble. You want to know how I knew this movie was going to be in trouble or how this movie was not going to be good before I saw a single shot of this film? There's two things. One,
92 minutes long.
Boom. One was that the title poster did not have the T-Rex on it. It had the Spinosaurus. I will touch on that in a moment. And number two was the movie was under 90 minutes with credits. Was you said 92 minutes?
It's 92 minutes including credits. Yeah.
And
so
the credits
for
like
a Jurassic
Park movie,
87 minutes.
For a Jurassic Park movie, the credits is at least 6 to 8 minutes long. So knowing that they are coming at us with a third Jurassic Park film, and it is basically a 120-minute film, what the fuck's the point? If you can't come up with at least a 2 hour or even an hour 50-minute movie for Jurassic Park, you don't fucking make a Jurassic Park movie. This is not a children's film. But I knew that from the get-go. I went in with the lowest of low expectations because when I saw how short it was like, oh no, this can't be that good. And that's coming from someone who loves the first two films. And Jurassic Park 3 is the definition of a cash grab, and it's the definition of someone who just wanted to make money making a Jurassic Park movie, but did not know how to make one, nor have the magic or the mindset of what Spielberg had. It was Joe Johnston?
Joe Johnston.
Yeah, Joe Johnston, which he's not a bad director. He's done good things. I mean, Captain America First Avenger, for one, I thought was very, very good.
I mean, he had done like Rocketeer. I think what got him this job, he had done Jumanji, which was essentially them trying to make Jurassic Park, but with real animals instead of dinosaurs.
And make it a board game and everything.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I can see why they gave him the job, but it's a movie that felt like it was like, well, let's just basically take the dinosaur chase scenes and we'll make a movie out of it, and the characters, whatever.
Well, it's like they threw money at Sam Neill, which at that time Sam Neill's career wasn't really that much anymore.
I mean, his career's never really blown up. He's
No, but
always a great actor, but he's never been like a big, huge movie star.
Yeah, and they got Laura Dern for like 2-3 scenes tops. But they added Taya Leone and William H. Macy, two very good actors. But the story itself was just, it's not good. It's not compelling. It's, they con Sam Neill into doing a dinosaur tour, which, I'm sorry, Grant would never do that. Now, granted, they offered him money. But you're telling me that Grant, after all the events of the first film, would go back to that island at any mindset, go back to that island? No.
I only bought into it because of the line they added, because they went there and he was like pointing out the things and they were going to land. It's like, whoa, we're not going to land. Because he thought they were going to fly over it and do it like a flyover tour. I could see him doing that because he needs the money to keep his dig going.
To me, with Grant, the way his mindset was with everything, I don't think he'd even want to be anywhere even within 10 miles of that island. Sam Neill's character growth of that character throughout that film proved that his character would never, ever get close
With
to
that being said, he would still manage to be the only character in the movie who I did not want to get eaten. Because everyone else in that movie,
I mean, he's still Dr. Grant. Yeah. You don't want him to die.
But I'm just saying, it said something about the rest of the cast that I wanted all them to get eaten.
Oh yeah, William H. Macy was kind of his character was fine, but he's an idiot. And Taya Leone, most annoying fucking character through this entire film. If there was ever, she literally plays that character in every movie. They're like, well, she's clearly gonna die. She's gonna be the one that's gonna get eaten because she's being stupid, and she survives the whole way through the damn film. But the number one most egregious thing that this film did that causes me to give this film the fuck you treatment is not the Alan. That part's fine. I'll allow the Alan any day of the week. Yeah, this is me going dinosaur nerd. The Spinosaurus is nowhere near the size of a T-Rex. Any normal fight, the T-Rex would destroy the Spinosaurus unless the T-Rex was injured beforehand. T-Rex would dominate a Spinosaurus any day of the week. Not only did the Spinosaurus be incredibly larger than a T-Rex in this film, but it beat the fucking T-Rex in, I quote, 86 seconds. Fuck you, Jurassic Park 3. You had the T-Rex in this movie. Your primate dinosaur. The thing you sell this whole movie around. The T-Rex. He said, you know what? We're going a different direction with Jurassic Park now. Fuck the T-Rex. This T-Rex is going to get dominated in 86 seconds. This isn't a fucking UFC fight. A T-Rex would beat a Spinosaurus, and even then, it would still be, even with a Spinosaurus against a T-Rex, the match would have gone at least longer than 5 minutes. I said match. I don't care. I hate this movie, but it's not the worst one. Why? Because it stays true to what the movie was the whole way through. We'll touch on that later. But you don't let a T-Rex get dominated by a dinosaur that's never been that big in 86 seconds. I will stop now so Brian can rejoin the conversation. He has heard this conversation. He's heard this rant more times than he has a count.
I have. Sean's a little defensive of his precious T-Rex, but I mean, I understand why they did it, because the first movie, your main thing was the T-Rex. I mean, yes, the Raptors were a big part of it too, but the T-Rex was like the king of the monsters. The second one, they leaned into making the Raptors the main villain. This one, they need to create a new villain. So how do you make him seem intimidating? By having him become the new king of the mountain. You get the Spinosaurus. And later on movies, they create new ones, which we'll get into later. But so I understand why they did it. And like you said with the Raptors, not everything is scientifically accurate. 99% of the public doesn't know that. And I understand you're very protective of your T-Rex as a character. That's
not like just me. Every fucking fan of dinosaurs is protective to the T-Rex.
That to me was like not even an issue. I'm like, oh, cool. The Spinosaurus beat the T-Rex. Cool. There's a scary new dinosaur in town. For me, the biggest problem with the movie was the fact there's zero likable characters except maybe Alan. But even he's stupid. I mean, he like makes the resonating chamber, he 3D prints, and not only does he know how to blow, he knows how to make exactly the right noises to make them do what they want to do, and he knows what the sounds mean. Apparently, these kind of a lot of jumps in logic, things like that. But the fact that it just felt like they thought of a bunch of cool action sequences and strung them together is what this movie felt like. I don't hate this movie. I enjoy this movie for what it is. but it is easily for me the worst movie, the least good movie of the franchise.
It's not a good movie. It killed the franchise. It killed the franchise for how many years? When did Jurassic World come out? Jurassic World came out in
15.
In what?
15.
15. So it effectively killed the franchise for 14 years. That is how good Jurassic Park 3 is. And you know why it killed the franchise? Because it's not a good movie. People still went and saw it, but they didn't make much money on it. Once again, because of all the things we've already mentioned. But yeah, you have unlikable characters. You've got the talking raptor thing. Yes, you do have the Alan thing, which has become a meme to epic proportions. I find it funny, but that doesn't mean that it was good or should have been in the movie at all.
It did make $400 million worldwide, almost like 360.
$400 million for Jurassic Park money is not good money. By any other movie, that's great. By Jurassic Park standards, that's not great. And this is also, I think, for the most part, the first time they really started to go away from the practical effects. Am I right about that? Didn't they start going more CG with their stuff here?
Why? Yeah. Well, I mean, there was still plenty of practical in it, but they definitely started leaning more and more on the.
Yeah, it was more CG with, like, say, it felt like they go, we can make this cheaper, we can make it this way, and it just disappointed and failed. I mean, and you can see this is also the first film where I could tell they started to kind of change the raptor up a little bit, because then the raptors almost have like little hair up here. It's like trying to make it a little more birdy.
They started adding things. Because I think, like I said, like part of it was scientific advances, and that people, would pay attention to these things. Like, oh, we got to change the raptors. Also, I think just to kind of differentiate them, like, oh, maybe there's a new, scarier breed of raptor.
I will admit, once again, probably the two best scenes of the movie was the raptor chasing him through, like, when it pretend, like, once again, that's one thing too, where it's like, yes, raptors are smart, but raptors don't like pretend they're frozen in a like a glass case and then jump out, gotcha, kind of thing. It's like
they know what statues are, so they can imitate.
Yeah, exactly. Them. Like great visual on movie, but it's like, come on, guys, these are still dinosaurs. But I mean, that was a great scene in its own sense. And then obviously the whole pterodon, whatever you want to call him, scene, which I granted went a little too over the top. But
it is. But at the time, pterodactyl is one of those, like you said, the primary 5 or 6 dinosaurs everybody knows. Pterodactyl, pterodon, whatever you want to call them. That everybody knows, and like that. Aside from seeing it flying outside the window, that's the one dinosaur that never got his moment, and she finally did in this movie.
Yeah, and that's another one that most people didn't constitute as like a scary dinosaur. They constitute that like it's a flying stegosaurus, flying triceratops. Like it's a good dinosaur. And it's like, no, these are bad dinosaurs.
They're still carnivores.
Yeah, they will still eat your ass, kind of thing. And even then, with the whole aviary scene, that scene worked. It did. It worked immensely for what it was. To me, the Spinosaurus, every scene the Spinosaurus is in, and this is not because it dominated the T-Rex, it didn't bring anything to the film that a T-Rex couldn't have done. It's except for adding the spine, the bill thing on the back of it for the Spinosaurus, it doesn't do anything that you could have just done with a T-Rex and been fine with. Now, like I said, they have I think also introduced the Allosaurus at one point in this film, which I like the Allosaurus. That's one that people don't pay attention to enough. It's like the runt cousin of the T-Rex. And what do we get with that scene? We get a shit joke with that dinosaur. It's like, okay, cool. Like that one could have been an actual like dangerous part of the film, but no, it smells the Spinosaurus shit and runs away, kind of thing. But Jurassic Park 3. There's not much more to say about it because the movie's not that fucking long. It killed the franchise for over a decade. I feel like Sam Neill probably was like, why the fuck did I do this? Probably because he got a good fucking paycheck. But yeah, Jurassic Park 3 to me is definitely the worst of the OG trilogy. And it's to me the second worst of the whole franchise, which is saying a lot. So we go through, like I said, this 14 years of no dinosaur movies outside of like, we go back to kind of crappy animation and crappy CGI dinosaurs in other films. Nothing really to the point where we're all just like, man, do you remember Jurassic Park? That was so fucking good. And then 2014 or 2015, we get Jurassic World. Now, Jurassic World, I remember the first time I saw the trailer. I believe I have the poster behind me. Yeah, right there. That first trailer, I remember seeing that, and this was the first movie that made me go, they're back. Like this looks like Jurassic Park. They're bringing things like Owen or Chris Pratt. I mean, obviously coming off of Guardians, I mean, he was super hot at that point. Cast wise, I mean, unless you're watching a lot of TV, a lot of the cast was relative unknowns for most people. But the biggest thing is that the park actually finally opened. They actually made the park, and craziness ensues. And I remember, I think at the time when it came out, I was living on my own, and my dad, who I hadn't seen for like 4 years, came to visit. And granted, perfect timing, like Jurassic World was coming out, because my dad watched it all the time with me as well. We got to watch that movie, and I just remember watching Jurassic World, and it was the first time since probably the first film where I just spent most of the movie just kind of like mouth open, just enjoying what I was seeing. And a lot of people want to shit on Jurassic World, and it's like Jurassic World is a very solid, competent film that revitalized the franchise. Is it as good as Jurassic Park? Hell no. But in terms of the films, it's easily the second best in the whole franchise. What are your thoughts on World?
Yeah, World, like you said, was one of those ones that it came out and you were just like, you felt like Jurassic Park is back. And it's, I think, a movie that couldn't have been made any earlier, because I think while 3 did not perform nearly as well as the others, it still made 4 times its budget. It still made a ton of money for the studios, so they would have been completely justified in making more of them. Obviously,
it made 4 times its budget because it used no budget at all. Sorry, keep going.
It had a bigger budget than the first 2 movies.
Because of the CGI.
but the point being that, but I think, I don't know if it's Spielberg held it back or whatever, for whatever reasons. There's like, where do you go with the story from here? Except like, oh, there's, what do you have? More people just go to that island for no reason? Whatever. So they waited all this time, and they came up with a story where it's like, it made sense. It made sense that, okay, years later, there have been, all these advances and things going on. Things, they decide, we finally got this park. We're going to have it up and running, which they couldn't have, done close. They had to wait several, 14 years to convincingly say that this park could be existing there. And so we finally get to see it, because you want to see a different take on it. And here you get to see, what if the public was in this park? What if it wasn't just 5 people running around? What if it was the whole public, and what happens, and things get loose, and etc.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was great. And like I said, I think the casting top to bottom was great. Chris Pratt, like you said, had kind of already proven himself as kind of an action star, but it's a little more comedic in Guardians of the Galaxy. Here, obviously, he still cracks jokes. He's still Chris Pratt, but it's a little more straightforward. It's kind of his first time as a pure action star. He did great. Bryce Dallas Howard, I really liked in this movie, who I'd never really paid attention to most of the stuff she'd done before this, like Lady in the Water and The Village, some awful movies like that. So, I mean, I really enjoyed the cast they put together for this movie. And like I said, with Chris Pratt's character, I think they kind of said, okay, we can't just have, the dinosaur scientist guy. Let's have somebody different. So they have basically this guy who's like, not only is he ex-military, but he's like his dinosaur wrangler. So he's kind of like putting Muldoon like as the main character in this park, or in this film. And I just think that they did everything right that a reboot, what do they call it, a requel should do. Because you aren't ignoring the first movie, you aren't trying to remake it, you aren't trying to start over, but it isn't necessarily like a sequel where you're having all the same characters, things like that. It's basically kind of like, okay, here we're starting a new trilogy, but it's still in the same world. And I think that they blended everything together perfectly.
Yeah, the beauty of Jurassic World, granted, it's not anything for the most part practical in terms of Jurassic Park, which is why Jurassic Park still excels over Jurassic World. But the ultimate, the ultimate dream or goal for Hammond was to make this a park. And granted, Hammond's dead at this point, but we finally get to see it, visualized. For anyone who's watched Jurassic Park from when it first came out, we've always wondered, what would a Jurassic Park look like? We got a tease of what they're going to do for San Diego, which honestly, the model in Lost World looked like just like a fucking gladiator arena with a
it was just like one little arena, yeah.
Yeah, I was like, that's not a theme park, but here we actually have like Walt Disney World for dinosaurs.
Yeah,
I
in
mean,
the sweeping shots, you can even see they have like a water park area. They have other
yeah,
parts
you
that
have
they go
Wahlberg
into
here.
in
You
the
have,
movie.
a petting zoo. You've got the SeaWorld aspect with the is it the
Mosasaurus.
Mosasaurus. You've got the T-Rex exhibit. You got the command center. You have like basically Main Street with literally like every this is where they're making their money for this movie with all the sponsorship stuff.
That's the thing that blatant. This movie is always pointed at as blatant product placement, but in a movie like this, it's like it
makes
works
sense.
because like the movies that have the worst product placement, like things like Michael Bay movies, things like that, or when it's like somebody's all of a sudden he's like using a phone, like, oh sure, my great Samsung phone, they're obviously, but this is just they're going to have restaurants and gift shops and things in that strip, so just use real companies. But it was never like this is a tasty burger.
Yeah. Oh, let me take a pause and drink my Pure Life water.
Right. So I think having real companies made it feel like a real place, but without overselling it. But people like to point at this as product placement.
I agree. And then even when they even did the excess part of it, they sold it off like one of my favorite parts is
I know what you're gonna say.
What you know exactly where I'm going with this.
Jake Johnson's talking about
Jake Johnson, which honestly one of my favorite characters of the franchise. I wish he brought back, but his character wouldn't serve any purpose. Where Bryce Dallas Howard is like, Verizon Wireless presents the Indominus Rex. He's been going, oh.
And then name the dinosaurs: Tostito, Pepsisaurus.
Yeah, Pepsisaurus. And once again, it's Owen. I almost said Owen Wilson. Owen has one of the best lines in the movie, where it's like, oh, we took all the parts of blah blah blah, and like we have to make it exciting version. Like, it's a dinosaur. You don't need to do any more than that.
Dinosaur, wow enough is what he says.
Wow enough, exactly. It's like, and that's kind of and like I say with Jurassic Park 3, like you said, they were like, oh, we need something bigger and fresher and something that's bigger than the T-Rex. And so they take a dinosaur that's nowhere near as big and make it bigger. Whereas in this one, they did the actual clever thing is let's splice all these things into creating a dinosaur that doesn't really exist and make it a badass dinosaur like the Indominus Rex. And granted, it did kind of, I don't want to say plot armor, but what's the thing? What's the terminology where like halfway through the film, it'll do something like, oh, I forgot. It also has this and it also has this.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, okay, you need to establish the fucking ground.
It went a little far in that, but
yeah, but you did this thing with Jurassic World where you built this theme park and it felt alive. It felt like a real place. I mean, it has a freaking monorail. You had the Geosphere ride, which to me just looks like fucking awesome. You made this park feel like a real place to the point where I was like, I would love to fucking.
Well, that was the thing about this is I felt like this could really happen in this one. That's why I thought the writing was so good in this one, because they talk about the reason they were Geospice, because 10 years ago people would be like, wow, a dinosaur's alive, and now they look at it like they look at an elephant in the zoo, because that's what would really happen. People would grow bored of dinosaurs. That's why they created these more and more exciting dinosaurs.
Anyone who's bored of dinosaurs is not a friend of mine.
But
dinosaur.
But at the same time, then you have like the people like Vincent D'Onofrio's character who are like, we're going to find a way to militarize these dinosaurs, to use them. And people have pointed that as, oh, that's the stupidest thing. They're trying to use dinosaurs. You tell me that if the world's greatest killing creature was brought back from extinction, that someone wouldn't try to turn that into a weapon.
Let's think of this logically here real quick, because everyone keeps saying this is a stupid thing. This is the most logically based mindset in any film. Aliens. What was the main thing with Aliens is Paul Reiser's character. They wanted to capture a xenomorph and weaponize it. Godzilla. They want to capture Godzilla and weaponize it. Any human film with monsters or creatures where there's multiples of it, they can capture it. They want to study it, figure out how it works, and weaponize it. So why does everyone think that this is such an implausible thing? Maybe because they think, oh, raptors can't be controlled, because we've seen 3 movies where they can't. But then you have a character like Owen that literally can just go.
Because he had read it from birth and trained it from birth. Yeah. It has a relationship with it.
And enough that you can just go, and the raptor's like, what's up? Kind of thing. It's like, you can. And in the film, it does work until all of a sudden the Indominus Rex develops a new XP skill of it can talk to the raptors. Which,
well, because he had they put raptor blood.
Yeah, exactly. But it was like, oh, wait, I forgot. Here's another thing for you. Which, even at that moment, I think everyone went, oh shit. But
Well, because
in hindsight,
I will say that one they at least built up to, because they were like this mystery of like, they don't know what they put in, and it's like, oh, now I know what they put in. They put Raptor in it,
yeah.
and so it made sense. But then also for the people who think this militarization of the dinosaurs, like, oh, this isn't what Jurassic Park's about. They've strayed away from the story. They're actually two movies late, because in the book of The Lost World they were already doing this.
They were, and it's one of those things where they needed to, like you said earlier, Jurassic Park was about the creation of the park that ultimately did not work. Lost World was the breeding ground of it, and Jurassic Park 3 was just fucking Jurassic Park 3. Jurassic World was Hammond's vision finally coming to fruition, and seeing that even when he got exactly what he wanted, granted he wasn't alive to see it, but when he actually got what he wanted, it's still the same shit still happened. Dinosaurs are still going to escape. Dinosaurs are still going to eat people and destroy everything. But it's one of those things where I was totally bought in to the storyline. I was bought into everything they did. The Indominus Rex, as plot armored as it was, I think it does a pretty good job of establishing itself as a character. I mean, he's got the camouflage. It looks basically like a gigantic T-Rex with raptor-esque abilities. Granted, I think they made it too smart, where like it took out its tracking beacon, and I think they made it a little too clever.
It's like, okay, maybe it knows where you put it, but how does it know what it is?
Exactly. And then like it outsmarts the humans. Like it immediately draws them to the aviary because he knows the helicopter will crash into it. It's like it's still a dinosaur, guys. Like when's it going to start?
It is, but again, this comes down to one of those things where, like, sure, there's moments or little things that bug me about it, but I still think it's practically a perfect movie. Honestly, I've said time and time again, I like this movie almost as much as the original. In some ways, I like it more than the original. Honestly,
I wouldn't go that far, because
I know you wouldn't, but for me,
but I mean, like I said, the kid actors aren't nearly as strong. Simpkins is a little annoying.
They made him
Claire,
autistic for no reason at all that I can figure out. They made him autistic for no reason at all, or at least on the spectrum.
He wasn't really autistic. He was just a real nerd.
No, they've said they purposely made him. He's supposed to be like on the spectrum.
Yeah, but I mean, they threw this divorce storyline in just to kind of make them have some sadness to them, or to make the older brother kind of more of like the disgruntled teen. Bryce Dallas Howard's character, I think they could have made, if that, and that's something that really bothered me about going into Fallen Kingdom, but but once she starts going out there with Owen, her character actually starts to develop an actual fucking character besides like, oh, numbers, product. I still think the assistant, it has probably one of the most unnecessary deaths in the entire franchise. That character did not deserve to get fucking destroyed like the way she did. She was just doing her damn job. Like, you could have found,
though. She was on her phone, not watching the kids.
Okay, but does that deserve to get killed the way she got killed? You could have found another Nedry kind of character, and you could have had them go down that way. But the awe of Jurassic World is amazing. Now, granted, a lot of people will say that it's basically kind of the Force Awakens of Jurassic Park, where it's like it's basically taking the same beats of Jurassic Park but doing it differently. So what? Like, it's my same argument.
What are the beats? We have dinosaurs. Things go wrong. They attack.
Yeah, it's like, I love Force Awakens. I think Force Awakens is one of the better Star Wars movies. Yes, is it a lot like New Hope? Yes, but is it different enough to be its own movie? Yes, so is Jurassic World. You can make that argument, or you can just say, hey, I love Jurassic Park, and Jurassic World's a lot like Jurassic Park, but it's still a good fucking movie. You get the epic fight at the end of the film, which, honestly, let's put it this way. When that first trailer, when you see Owen riding the motorcycle with the raptors, I'm sorry, could you ever be more fucking epically badass at that moment? No, you can't. There's nothing more badass than riding a motorcycle with raptors as your fucking gang. Like, come on. The only thing better would be riding the T-Rex with the raptors fighting, which would never happen, but that would be even more. That's a Boba Fett thing. But that was such a badass scene. And even then, you have that moment with, like, they have the cameras, and then you're watching them, like, how the raptors are moving through the cameras. Beautifully shot, awesome visuals. And then, of course, you have where the raptors go full raptor and just start, doing raptor things that we all know. You got D'Onofrio as kind of that perfect villain character for the film. I think he maybe could have gotten a little more screen time to just really nail his character down a little bit better. But we get the showdown with the Raptors against the Indominus Rex in Main Street. And we get the line from Simpkins' character is, we need more teeth. And we get probably the most unrealistic scene in the film where Claire goes and chases down the T-Rex in her heels and then can outrun a T-Rex in heels.
There's at any moment it could have just gone and eaten her. I never quite
it would have ran past. Like, if you don't want her to get eaten, fine. Just let the T-Rex run past her at that point. Like, have her just chuck the flare towards that area and just let it run past her, because it's dark out. Maybe it doesn't see her, even though she's wearing all white. But there's no way she could outrun a T-Rex in heels. But we get this awesome fight between the Indominus Rex, T-Rex, and Blue, essentially. And granted, as I was watching the movie, I was like, I swear to God, if you guys fucking punk out the T-Rex again, I'm going to lose my shit. And granted, Blue shows up and helps save the day. But I loved watching this fight because, I mean, what?
And the Mosasaurus helps it too.
That's what we're going to go to. Is that you get this fight where it's like, okay, the T-Rex is getting dominated by the Indominus, and Blue's helping, but they really aren't. But they get to this point where they finally team up, and you're like, well, there's still probably not going to be. And then here comes the whoosh, which, like, that's just sweet. That is just a sweet shot, and like, well, there's that. That's cool. That's how they beat it. They couldn't beat it on their own. They beat it because apparently the Mosasaurus was like, I'm hungry. I'm gonna leave out. Like, how did it know it was up there? I have no fucking idea. But you know what? Cool fucking shot. It was a cool shot. And then, of course, probably the most unrealistic part of the film outside of Claire running is you have like Blue and the T-Rex. Look, you're like, till next time, bro. And they both go their separate ways, kind of thing.
I took it as they're both like,
mutually respected.
We're injured. I'm just gonna go sit in a corner somewhere.
Yeah, it's like, I just want to go lay down. Can we just fight later? Cool. But yeah, I think Jurassic World did exactly what I think everyone set it out to be, and that was revitalize the franchise, start a new trilogy, and just be fucking fun and enjoyable.
Big way. It was the #1 box office all time for 6 months.
That was the other thing too, is that, like, and that made me so happy, because when I saw how well it was doing the box office, it was killing it. I was like, oh my God, people actually still do love Jurassic Park. This makes me so happy.
And on a personal note, this is the first one I got to take my kids to go see in a theater. My son was 6 when this came out, and I was like, I was showing the first 3 Jurassic Park movies at home first. I want to make sure he's gonna be okay. It can be a little bit scary.
He can handle it and stuff. Yeah.
But so he went and saw. I brought him and my daughter and my wife, who never goes to movies in theaters, but she likes Jurassic Park. So she went and saw it, and we all just loved it. So it was really cool to be able to take them to see it in the theater.
Yeah, it basically brought back the good graces of anyone who was tainted by Jurassic Park 3. Now, like I said, as much as I hate Jurassic Park 3, it's like the Fast and Furious movies with a lot of people. Burn me, but if you make another one, I'm going to fucking go see it. Like, I'm going to. Because I can only hope that you guys will fix your ways, which Jurassic World did that. Then we get Fallen Kingdom. Now, I will say this, and we found this out on I think it was the marketing episode of the Movie Crusaders chat about. We said this on our episode, Brian and I would usually try to do our best we'll watch the teaser and we'll watch the first trailer. And then if it's a movie that we really, really care about, we will do everything we possibly can to avoid the second, third, fourth trailers, the TV spots, all this kind of stuff, because we don't want to be spoiled, because trailers have done that now. They spoil everything. If you guys want to listen to this conversation, it's a fantastic video that we did that we really enjoyed shooting. But because Jurassic World is such a big thing for me, I watched the first trailer, which the first trailer was all about the first half of the movie. It was about the volcano and then trying to get the dinosaurs off the island. That's all the first trailer had. It didn't have the second half of the movie. The second trailer did, but I avoided the second trailer because I didn't want to get spoiled. So for most people like Brian, you guys already knew what this movie was going to be ahead of time. I went in thinking that it was going to be this saving the dinosaurs thing. And granted, I want to say that's on me, but it's also not on me, because it's like, come on. Like, most people, it's like, it's just, ugh. Fallen Kingdom to me brings me great rage. More rage than Jurassic Park 3 does. I will say this. I don't hate the first half of this film. I actually quite enjoy the first half of the film to a point. As soon as they leave the island, this becomes the worst Jurassic film I've ever seen. It's worse than Jurassic Park 3, because at least Jurassic Park 3 stays in its lane. It stays on the island. It stays with what it's doing. I don't agree with what they're doing, but they're staying where they're at. Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom basically is two separate films. One is basically the final endpoint of Jurassic World, and then it creates this whole other like dinosaurs in a mansion storyline that to me just it still doesn't work. The Indoraptor thing, I bash the Indoraptor a lot, and it's not that they created another dinosaur. That's not my problem, because that worked with the Indominus Rex. I just hate the Indo name. I really don't like the Indominus Indo thing. What pisses me off about the Indoraptor is they added this fucking element with the gun. It's like, oh, point this sonar gun at this person and the raptor will attack it. It's like, or you just shoot the motherfucker. You don't have to throw your dick on the table and send a fucking dinosaur after the guy. If you have enough time to point a gun at a person to hit a sonar button to send a dinosaur running after it, you have enough time to shoot the person in the head. At that point, you're not even 1-upping them, you're 10-upping them by sending a dinosaur. Like, did you see that motherfucker? They didn't shoot him in the head. They shot a fucking raptor after his ass. It's unnecessary. There's so much of Fallen Kingdom that just pisses me off and makes no sense, that it made me wonder, did they really think about this film while they were making it? One, they shouldn't have put a Jurassic World on Site A. There's a freaking volcano on it. If you're going to build a theme park, granted, we're thinking in the mindset that it didn't fall apart in the first film. If you're going to put a theme park somewhere, put it on Site B, where there isn't a volcano. So that way, if a volcano erupts, it doesn't destroy your entire theme park. Just thinking outside the box here. Two, the character of oh god, what the hell's her name? You know where I'm going with this. Zia. A dinosaur. Oh god, what's the actual terminology? It's a
paleo-veterinarian.
Paleo-veterinarian. A dino vet. She went to college to be a dino vet, but literally in the film has never seen a dinosaur. So why the fuck is that your major? Like, you're literally the beginning of the film is them discussing whether we should let the dinosaurs go extinct because of the volcano or save them. If they let them go extinct, which is what they inevitably decided to do, you just wasted what?
Well, while she was in college, they didn't know this volcano was going to be reclassified as active. It had been dormant. It had been
doesn't
inactive.
matter. Volcanoes are volcanoes. They're always going to re-erupt at some point. But the Zia character, it's like, you went to college for this. You just wasted. Like, you're going to be paying student loans for the rest of your life for a
she thought she would
never use. What's that?
She didn't know it at the time she was in college.
Yes, but she at that point she was like, I never thought I'd ever see one. You never thought you would ever see one, yet you became a doctor of one. Like, it's the lines of dialogue. I have nothing against her becoming one, but her saying that line was one of the dumbest fucking things you could say in that movie. It's like, oh, I wanted to be a doctor of clowns, but I never thought I'd ever see a clown in real life. Then why the fuck did you want to be a doctor of clowns? I don't know why I said clowns. That's the first thing that came to mind.
Because you want to be a serial killer, apparently.
Apparently. This one just hurts my brain, and even you agree with me on this. The fucking auction. That is, once again, were they not thinking when they made this film? Was it 2017, 2018 was when it came out?
18.
I'm pretty sure money today and 2018 were relatively the same. It costs probably close to $1 billion to maybe buy the Dallas Cowboys. Yet it costs $4 million on auction to buy a dinosaur. By that logic, I could buy, if I had, the money to buy the Dallas Cowboys, I can create my own Jurassic World. because I can buy any dinosaur I want and still have enough to make a fucking theme park out of it. These are priceless fucking extinction animals, and they're selling these for the cheapest prices ever. Some houses are more expensive than the dinosaurs in this movie, and it hurt. Brian, it hurts me. It hurts.
I had no problem with the idea of the auction itself because it would totally happen.
I'd have no problem with that either.
There
That
would definitely
like,
be a black market for these dinosaurs, and I'll get on to my general thoughts of the movie in a minute because I'm gonna let you finish your ranting. But as on the subject of the auction, I get the concept of the auction, but yes, those prices were pretty laughable because I mean there have been rare comic books that have gotten over $3 million they've sold for. You can buy rare music or hell, a movie costs $100 million to make, $250 to make, but you can get the only living Indoraptor or whatever in the world for the bargain price of I actually he sold.
I forgot what the Indoraptor actually went for.
They never sold the final price, but I think it sold for like 50 something. I think you see it on the screen. But before that, I mean, they were selling for some of the bigger ones for selling for like 26 million, things like that. But yeah, but most of them, like the first few they wheeled out, like, oh, here's $4 million. Like,
let's
we're a dinosaur.
Let's put this in perspective real quick. The latest film, Dominion, it cost $165 million to make. You could buy how many dinosaurs with that money?
Depending on the dinosaur, you could buy as many as 10.
I mean, you buy more. It's like, come on. Like, it'd be one thing if it was like in the 90s and they were like, oh, one dinosaur's, $10 million, which even then that's more than what they sold them for in this film. It's like, this was 4 years ago.
So yes, I agree. The prices were laughable, but let's move on from the auction. Go ahead.
Claire, Dallas Bryce Howard's character, she went from, they completely changed her character, which I'd like her character better in this one. Yeah. I liked her character better in Fallen Kingdom. But she went from a character that looked at the dinosaurs as assets and not actual animals to, I'm the leader of the savior of the dinosaurs and I love dinosaurs. And then I'm like,
that was the whole point.
It's like, shut the fuck up.
And her character had experienced this, had seen these animals, and she decided, I have done this. I want to go the other way. I want to work to save the animals instead of
No, I'm sorry. No,
it's completely believable. Completely believable.
No, her establishment went from these are assets to dinosaurs are going to eat me throughout the whole rest of the movie to now I want to save all the dinosaurs.
Yes.
No. I like Claire, but I'm sorry.
That's like saying somebody who is a member of the neo-Nazis can't turn around and be somebody who wants to keep kids out of gangs.
But let's keep the Nazis out of this.
What's that?
Let's keep the Nazis out of this.
Well, no, okay. Just somebody who is in like gangs turns around and want to keep gangs out of gangs. It's the same thing. It was totally believable.
To be the fucking leader of the organization, to work for the organization is one thing. To be the fucking leader of the organization, like, come on. Owen,
absolutely believable.
Owen. Owen really has no change. I mean, Chris Pratt basically is just playing the same character, but there's so much stupid that happens in this movie once they get to the house. I'm not gonna touch on the clone thing yet because that's a whole other fucking thing. But then you got the one scene with the Indoraptor and Buffalo Bill.
Ted Levine.
Thank you, Ted Levine, which is something straight out of a cartoon. The Indoraptor is playing knocked out, and he goes, and Ted Levine's character is like, I'm going to get inside the cage, and I'm going to try to steal a tooth. And, like, as he's trying to, you see the tail come up behind him, and he turns around, and it's down. And then you see the Indoraptor open its eye. You're like, this is clearly for kids, but this is so comically bad that you're doing this. And it's like,
I don't understand your problem with this scene either.
It's such a stupid scene.
If he thinks it's asleep, the audience gets to see that it's awake. It's
comic. If it was a lesser film, like a spoof movie, that would totally fit. But in the moment, you're telling me that the Indoraptor has the ability to play comedy against a guy?
He's not playing comedy. He's just pretending to be asleep, and then he doesn't want to.
Oh, come on! This is such a Looney Tunes scene. This is such a Bugs Bunny moment.
I disagree completely. I will tell you all. I disagree with Sean in most of this movie. This movie for me is the number 3 in the series as far as the ranking them. I think it's better than Lost World. I think it's better than
It's
Jurassic
number
Park 3.
6.
That's just how it is.
It's number 6.
I will say I agree with him. The first half hour is the strongest, or the first hour is the strongest part of it when they're on the island. I think everything up through there is great. Once they get to the house, it does become a whole different movie. Like I said, I understand that this would really happen, the auction, the black market for them, things like this. And I think that it was a great way to get us to the end point, which was this is how the dinosaurs get to the US and end up getting released into the wild US, which is going to take us to what everybody really wants to see is dinosaurs living in the world with people. What I think should have happened. Let me
go ahead. You go.
What I think what should have happened in this movie. I think what this movie was, it should have been. I don't know if they could have fit it all into one movie, but what they needed to do is have the first hour like it was. They have them bring them to the US and have this auction thing, and they get free from there, and however that happens. But that should have been that whole second half of the movie could have been like basically a short segment. It could have been like, hey, they got here,
like the third act.
The whole thing of him chasing them through the house. That I will say, while it was just made to be as scary sequences, it does seem completely unnecessary. It seemed like this movie, the second half of this movie, was basically just a transition into the third movie.
Well, that's another problem with the film, and I won't go super hard into it. Is that Blue is in the basement of this mansion? Is he not? 'Cause he's being treated. He's in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's that explosion where Blue basically jumps out like the fucking window into like a hallway thing because of the C2 or whatever it blows. Then Blue somehow gets out of the basement, gets upstairs, then all of a sudden, for some reason, realizes Owen's in trouble on like the third fucking floor, gets all the way up there, and then fights the Indoraptor. How the fuck does Blue get out of this basement? That's what I'm wondering. You never see Blue get out of there. Blue's locked up downstairs in the basement. And somehow he makes it outside, goes back into the mansion, goes upstairs to where Owen is, and goes and tries to save Owen from the
I'm not going to try and pretend I know the answer to that, but I think that the fact that
it's certain things where it's just like
all of the other dinosaurs were in basically their pens, their holding area. He was like in some medical area where they were treating him, that maybe there are elevators or doors that he got into, and somehow
you got to remember all the elevators down there have the security things. So it's like, how did
the explosions created a hole? He went through the floor.
It's one of those things where it's like it's lapse and laziness in the story. Like I said, I didn't want to spend too much time on it. Now, like with you, how you said how the movie should. I don't hate that. Now, I wouldn't have gone into the actual auctioning aspect of it. Probably what I would have done is they're on that boat. They're on that big boat. The dinosaurs get out on the boat. And then it's them they're on the boat. They can't fucking leave. They're surrounded by water. And inevitably we get kind of what happened with Lost World is the boat crashes into land, thus allowing all the dinosaurs to escape. Not them all being ready to die from, carbon dioxide poisoning and have a clone girl open the door going, they're like me, and let them fucking out.
Cyanide, by the way.
Cyanide, whatever. But it's not important enough to care at this point. But that whole moment's just fucking stupid as well.
I will say, see, that's one of the things about this movie is you have it kind of comes down to, in essence, like, again, this is another one of those movies people are like, oh, this is not what the Jurassic Park is supposed to be about. They've gotten so far from it. This is exactly what Jurassic Park is about. It's about this thing of like, we love dinosaurs. Everyone wants to see dinosaurs. But then is it the right thing? Because what happens when dinosaurs get out of control? We think we can control nature, like Ian Malcolm talks about, but we can't. And in this case, it's like, do we let the dinosaurs die on the island? They say, yes, we should. But these people who, they think they're doing something good with all the best intentions, like, oh, I'm going to go save the dinosaurs. They end up assisting people who want to use it for nefarious purposes. Then you get to the girl, Maisie, who basically at the end, when even Claire had said, I'm not going to push this button. I'm not going to let them free. I have to let them die because it would be tragic if they got out. Maisie hits the button because she's, oh, they're like me. And so basically she's responsible for however many thousand deaths are going to happen after that
in the new movie. Yeah.
So I agree with that moment was like, okay, why couldn't it just be they got out? It didn't have to be her letting them out. It could have just been the dinosaurs got loose. I will agree with you.
That's the whole thing too, is the whole thing of Maisie in general is such a jump the shark moment. Now I know that's a TV term, but you could have just had Maisie just be fucking a girl, just a regular girl. You didn't have to make her a fucking clone.
I think it's the next logical step.
But you're not going to do clone people in the next movie. You're not.
But no, I think it's the next step of where people, if they got a hold of this power, this genetic power, like
but this whole cloning thing, per the story of Fallen Kingdom, happened even before Jurassic Park, because Hammond and what's Cromwell's character's name?
Lockwood.
Lockwood. They separate even before that.
But I'm just saying that I mean, if the power of genetic cloning basically what was real, the next logical step is people be like, what if we could clone people? And so you have this person who he's one of the founders of this thing. He has the ability, he has the money, he has the resources to do it. He lost his daughter. Absolutely, someone like that would try to clone him. Was it necessary to this story to go into the cloning human aspect? No, but to me, it was not like, oh my gosh, this is so stupid, because it's like the people who made the dinosaurs would also probably go on to try to make humans.
It felt like an unnecessary tack on, and when it happened, like the reveal was like, really? Is this what we're doing? And then you have her say the dinosaurs, and then have her deliver that poorly bad line. And it's just like, you could have come up with any other way to set them free, to make this make sense. And for her to do it because they're like me, it was just such a stupid. I
agree. It was a dumb way to let them out. It could have just been that they, during that explosion that happened, opened a hole in the wall and the dinosaurs got free. I agree with you.
And when they do escape, the whole like quick now like. And then you got the whole Malcolm thing, like they teased in the trailers, like Malcolm's gonna be in this movie, and literally the entire trailer is his part in the movie kind of thing. But you do get his monologue over it. You get to see the T-Rex going into the zoo and roaring at the lion. You get well, in the post credits, you get the pterodons landing in Vegas and stuff. You get Blue looking over like a suburb kind of thing. That shit's cool. I was like, all right, that's a great way to end the story, because inevitably we all knew that the eventual end point was the dinosaurs are going to get out, and you're going to have to deal with them in a real life situation, which is what Dominion ultimately is going to be. That's probably one of the things when watching the first trailer for Dominion. I loved what I saw. I mean, you see, horses running with the dinosaurs. You see, just all these atmospheric shots of dinosaurs out in the world with, regular creatures and stuff like that. Now, granted, there's some shots in there that I don't like, but there were shots like that where I was like, this looks really, really good. And then you're adding, of course, the OG cast and everything like that. And it made me, and I hope I'm not screwing myself over by this, but watching the Dominion trailer made me feel the way I felt when I saw Jurassic World trailer, which was, did they finally find their way back from Fallen Kingdom? Are they on the right path to make this movie the way it should be? Because I remember after Fallen Kingdom, they were like going, oh yeah, they're gonna make human dino, human dino crossovers?
I never heard that.
There were actual pictures. They looked like do you remember Super Mario Bros?
Yeah.
Remember the Koopa's guards? They looked like them.
I have to wonder if that was real or not.
But... Oh no, there's actual like artistic like drawings from like the studio of them wanting to make like dino human army men, like soldiers and stuff. And like that was a thought process they're gonna do. Now granted, like that would have been the dumbest fucking thing. But I want to see what they're going to do with Dominion. I'm excited to see what they're going to do with Dominion.
I'm very hopeful for it. I mean, like you said, as we're recording this, we have not seen the movie yet. It's opening tomorrow. Tomorrow I'm going to see it. The reviews so far have been mixed, maybe even leaning negative. But for me, that doesn't bother me, because there were plenty of people who hated on the last two movies, and I really enjoyed them. But I think that I don't think there's any chance I'm going to hate the movie. The question is, how much will I enjoy it?
As long as they don't pull a Jurassic Park 3 or a Fallen Kingdom, I find it very hard for me to not enjoy it. But I don't think in the trailer I saw anything that resembled them hiding the dinosaurs in a mansion and running around the mansion.
And you brought back Colin Trevorrow.
What's that? Yeah,
Andrew
who did Jurassic World? Yeah. So I mean, I trust that them bringing back the OG crew, that it's in the right hands. That they're thinking with the right mindset of this, because like I said, this is ending not necessarily the franchise, but it's ending the trilogy. Hopefully, it ends it better than Jurassic Park 3 ended the first trilogy. But and I know that there's another big dinosaur, but it's another built dinosaur. So I know there's gonna be a dinosaur that's probably gonna dominate the fucking T-Rex in this movie. But it looks more like an actual T-Rex than the Indominus or Spinosaurus. So I mean, I'll have to kind of just deal with it in this respect. But like I said, I'm okay with it. If it's a man-made dinosaur, then they built it to that extent. Then okay, it makes sense for a dominated T-Rex. But it's a real life dinosaur dominant. No, I'm not cool with that. Here's hoping that the Triceratops and the Stegosaurus gets a little more respect in Dominion. I know I saw at least one shot in the trailer with like a Triceratops like rams a Jeep or something. Hopefully they're in it a little more. Like I said, because those are two primary dinosaurs. It really probably should get a little more screen time. But yeah, we will see how it is. I'm hoping that it's good. I would love to shoot my non-spoiler review and be able to say good things. And if we decide to do a spoiler review, a lot of it's going to depend on how we both feel about the movie and if we have enough to shoot a spoiler review, which personally I think for Jurassic World we would. Yeah, we'll figure that out. Then we'll see how that goes. But ultimately, Jurassic World franchise, it's very, very important to Brian and I. I would love to say that hopefully Dominion gets close to Jurassic Park standards, but I don't think any of these films will ever touch Jurassic World or Jurassic Park. None of them will ever be able to touch Jurassic Park, because Jurassic Park has 29 years of built-in like experiences and feelings and all this kind of stuff. Like, we can really, really like movies like Jurassic World, but I don't think they'll ever be able to top Jurassic Park. But we do love this franchise. We do love the dinosaurs and the characters. Like I said, some of the movies are not necessarily as loved as others, but the Jurassic World franchise, whether they keep making another 10 films out of this, maybe they'll branch it off and it'll be Fast and the Furious meets Jurassic Park. God, I hope not, unless Vin Diesel gets eaten by a dinosaur. And Tyrese needs to get eaten too. But nonetheless, Brian and I will probably be two guys that will be there opening night every single time to watch them and see what they do. Anything else you want to add before we call this thing?
No, except you won't be there opening night, but I won't rub that in.
No, work forced you.
I'm sorry, that was unnecessary.
Yeah, that was an unnecessary dig, Brian, you dick. I was going to see it opening night, but work's like, fuck you, you work. And I'm like, but I got plans. They go, no.
That is just to say, don't expect the non-spoiler review from him yet until Friday night, at least.
Yeah, non-spoiler review won't be out till sometime Friday. Spoiler review, if we shoot it, will probably be out sometime this weekend, maybe Monday. Depends on when we can get together to shoot it. Nonetheless, we will definitely have the reviews for Jurassic World Dominion, non-spoiler, maybe spoiler review. Also, we will have a review for Hustle that came out this week on Netflix, the Adam Sandler basketball film, which Brian has no interest in, but I actually want to see it because it does not look like one of the stupid Happy Madison films. It actually looks like a serious Adam Sandler film. So I'll check that out and have a review for you guys on that. Next week, Brian and I will be back for, I believe it's the actress director showcase. Pull up here. Who are we talking about this week? It is June show. Chris Hemsworth, Jennifer Lawrence, and Steven Spielberg. So that's going to be a fun episode. I'm sure we'll have tons to say about Spielberg that we haven't already said numerous times on multiple shows. But we hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you guys did, go and hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel so you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos pop up on the Movie Crusaders. And of course, we'll get to follow us on all the social media outlets you see below. Here's hoping Jurassic World Dominion is everything that we hope for, and that the box office does everything it can to. I think you predicted it 1, and I predicted it 2 in the summer box office.
I predicted it 1. Honestly, it's one of those things. It's kind of the opposite of Top Gun. Since I've heard the mixed reviews on it,
we both incorrectly predicted Top Gun. You and I both had it at number 7 for the box office, and we were. I mean, granted, all the other movies haven't come out yet, but
yeah, it was 2 days after we did our predictions. The rave reviews came out. I'm like, oh, if I'd known it was going to be received like this, I would have upped my prediction. Yeah. Jurassic Park's kind of the other way. I don't know that it's gonna be number one anymore. It'll still make a ton of money.
I
But I don't know if
think
it's gonna be
Jurassic
number one.
World Dominion will still be top 5.
Oh yeah,
I don't know
definitely.
if it'll be number 1 or number 2 like you and I had
Yeah.
predicted, but it definitely will still be top 5.
Yeah.
Will it be better than Top Gun Maverick in terms of box office? Who knows?
Tough to say.
Yeah, Top Gun Maverick is riding high right now.
Yeah.
But we hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Like I said, we'll be back later this weekend with the non-spoiler and maybe spoiler review for the show. Until next time, I'm Sean Wasserkrug. That is Brian Michaels. We are the Movie Crusaders. And until next time, in case we don't see you, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.
You're still here. It's over. Go home.